In the dead of night, a frantic whisper echoed from a forgotten bedroom, carrying a warning so chilling it defied all reason. The air in the room grew thick and cloying, carrying the sweet, sickly scent of decayed roses and the sharp, metallic tang of old blood. A sticky, cold dampness seeped from the walls, clinging to the skin like a second, unwelcome layer. From the hallway came a soft, persistent scratching, like fingernails dragging slowly across aged wood, inching closer with each passing second. This was the final, terrified plea of a child who saw something no one should ever see. He wasn't talking about the daisies in the yard or the roses on the table. He was warning us about the flowers that watch from the walls, the ones that whisper in the dark, and the ones that wear human skin. And the most terrifying part? By the time you hear his warning, it's already far too late. And tomorrow, you won't remember telling me that. The machine emits a sudden, abrasive screech as it's silenced. We cut abruptly to grainy, unsteady handheld footage. It frames a small, unnervingly perfect lawn on a quiet suburban street. Mark Henderson, 42 years old, addresses you from Perpetua, Ohio, a town of precisely 423 souls. His words hang in the air, thick and cold, like a confession whispered in an empty room. A faint metallic scent, like old coins and damp earth, seems to cling to his every syllable. This isn't an introduction. It's the first thread of a story he never wanted to tell. And I think we've been dead for 30 years. The video distorts, then cuts to black as the title card appears with eerie music. The Village That Forgets. The backstory begins with opening aerial drone footage of Perpetua, Ohio, an idyllic, picturesque town nestled among rolling hills and forests. But something feels off beneath that pristine surface. The air carries the faint, metallic scent of ozone, and the streets are unnervingly empty. White picket fences, immaculate gardens, a main street with cheerful awnings. The sun is always, somehow, in a golden hour glow. This is Perpetua. The name means everlasting. And for its residents, life is just that, a perfect, endless loop of small-town bliss. The coffee at Daisy's Diner is always freshly brewed, the scent of it hanging in the air like a permanent fixture. A loop so seamless, so meticulously maintained, that not a single leaf is ever out of place. On Elm Street, the roses never wilt, and the residents never age. Yet this eerie perfection is shattered by the mundane. In the Henderson kitchen, the air hangs thick with the scent of frying batter. Mark flips a pancake, unaware of the strange stillness just beyond his window. Sarah arranged daisies in a vase, their cheerful white petals a stark contrast to the morning's heavy silence. At the table, 8-year-old Leo ignored his untouched breakfast, his focus locked on a worn notebook. The only sound was the frantic scratch of his pencil, filling the space where conversation should have been. "Big day, sweetie. First day of school." Sarah's voice was too bright, a fragile performance that did nothing to lift the room's dense, watchful atmosphere. Leo's voice dropped to a grim whisper. "It's not the first day. It's the 365th, Mark chuckled, the sound hollow in the heavy air. "Someone's got a case of the Mondays. Eat up, champ," he added, the words hanging between them like a challenge. A metallic scent, like old coins and ozone, seeped into the space where Leo sat frozen. "You don't want to be late." Leo looks at his father, a deep, unsettling sadness in his eyes. He closes his notebook. On the cover, scrawled in a child's hand, it reads, "Day 10, 957. Leo Henderson is the only person in Perpetua who remembers yesterday, and the day before that, and every single day for the last, well, he stopped counting after 10,000. While the town resets, Leo accumulates. Every memory, every conversation, every lie. The weight of it all is a constant, damp pressure behind his eyes. A library of ghosts only he can visit." From his window, Leo watched Mrs. Gable, their elderly neighbor, strain under a single grocery bag, her steps slow and labored. The very next day, he saw her again, but she moved with an impossible, unsettling vigor. A metallic scent, like ozone after a storm, seemed to drift from her direction, and the air felt thick and charged. Leo could only stare, a knot of primal dread tightening in his gut as the familiar world around him quietly fractured. "Mr. Evans," voice echoed through the classroom, each syllable exactly as Leo remembered from a year ago. The other students listened with rapt, unnerving attention, as if hearing his "welcome back" speech for the very first time. Leo's lips moved silently, forming the familiar words a fraction of a second before the teacher spoke them. A sickening, metallic taste filled his mouth as the perfect, impossible repetition unfolded around him. That afternoon, young Samuel watched his mother, Sarah, carefully burying tulip bulbs in the damp, dark soil of the garden. Later that night, a sense of unease pulled him to his bedroom window. He peered out into the moonlit yard, and the plot of soil lay perfectly smooth, undisturbed. Yet, with the first light of dawn, an impossible sight greeted him. Where there had been only bare earth, a cluster of fully grown, vibrant red tulips now stood, their petals swaying gently in the morning breeze. A heavy, earthy scent, too rich and sweet for new flowers, drifted up to his window, and the air itself seemed to grow still and watchful. The Founders' Day festival unfolded in vibrant chaos, but for Leo, It was a meticulously preserved diorama of recurring dread. The scent of spun sugar and wood smoke hung thick, yet beneath it, a metallic tang of ozone prickled at his senses. This annual gathering was the linchpin, the single day the entire town assembled in its cyclical ritual. It was the precise moment the town's hidden clock shuddered and reset, beginning its countdown anew. Leo drifted through the festival crowd, a phantom unnoticed by the living. The same sticky cotton candy stain on the boy's shirt, the mayor's identical laugh at the precise second. He squeezed his eyes shut, the deja vu pressing in like a physical weight. When he opened them, his father Mark stood locked in intense conversation with old Mr. Henderson. Peterson stood by the memorial clock tower, its hands frozen in time. Mark turned to him, his voice dropping to a haunted whisper. "It's just a feeling, like a dream that keeps slipping through your fingers. Sometimes in the morning, I see Sarah's face, but her hair is gray." Mr. Peterson's smile tightened into something rigid and unnatural, like porcelain cracking under pressure. "Nonsense, Mark," he insisted, the words carrying an odd, hollow resonance. A faint, coppery scent, like old pennies, lingered in the air as he spoke. "You're in the prime of your life!" His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper that felt sticky and wrong. "We all are. Enjoy the festival. Have a cider." Peterson walked away, his smile dissolving the moment his back turned. He cast a frigid, analytical glance back toward Leo. Leo knew his father was beginning to itch. To test the boundaries of their reality was perilous. The last inquisitive soul, the former mail carrier, vanished without a trace. By morning, the town's collective story was simple. He'd moved to Florida. That night, Leo slipped into the oppressive silence of his parents' bedroom. Beneath the velvet lining of his mother's jewelry box, his fingers brushed against a hidden compartment. Inside rested a single, faded Polaroid that smelled faintly of dust and old chemicals. Mark and Sarah stared back from the photo, their faces identical to today, but their clothes decades out of style. The realization settled like ice in his gut, a primal dread taking hold as he tried to comprehend the impossible. Leo's gaze lingered on Sarah's face, and a cold dread settled in his stomach. Her smile was exactly the same. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't age." The air between them grew thick with the scent of old paper and ozone. A realization, sharp and cold, cut through him. "But you used to." The day after the festival, Leo woke to the sound of a single, steady drip and a sticky dampness on his sheets. The house held a tomb-like stillness as he entered the kitchen. His parents were there, but their movements were unnervingly rigid, their eyes fixed with a vacant, glassy sheen. A faint, metallic scent hung in the air. "Good morning, sleepyhead." Sarah's voice was flat and toneless. "First day of school." Leo's voice was a hollow whisper. "Mom, what did we do yesterday?" The air in the kitchen grew thick with the metallic tang of old blood. Mark frowned, his confusion a flicker in the gloom. "Yesterday? We prepared for your big day." A damp, cold dread seeped into Leo's bones. "Now eat up, champ," Mark finished, the words sticking in the heavy silence. Leo sprinted, his lungs burning, past houses where neighbors were performing the same eerie ritual at their fences, reintroducing themselves as if for the first time. He didn't stop until he reached the town's edge, marked by the gnarled, ancient oak tree, the boundary of Perpetua. Just beyond its twisted roots, the world returned to normal. A gray, rain-slicked highway stretched into the distance. The stark, mundane reality of the asphalt felt like a slap after the suffocating wrongness he'd just escaped. Between him and the road shimmered an almost imperceptible haze, like heat rising off asphalt. He took a step forward, and the air thickened into a syrupy resistance. A profound, psychic nausea washed over him, a sickening vertigo that felt more mental than physical. Beyond the haze, the trees began to stretch and warp, their forms melting into impossible, elongated silhouettes. A susurrus of whispers enveloped him, a chorus of every voice from town, murmuring in unison. "Stay, be happy, forget." He staggered backward, his stomach convulsing as he retched onto the damp earth. The air thickened with the scent of ozone and decay, a palpable weight pressing against his skin. As he lifted his head, vision blurred. Mr. Peterson stood there, holding a wicker basket of perfect, identical apples. "The border doesn't like to be tested, Leo," he said, his voice a low murmur that seemed to thicken the air. A faint scent of ozone and damp earth clung to the space between them. "It prefers things, consistent. You carry the weight of time. It makes you heavy. It makes you wrong for Perpetua." Leo's voice cut through the thick, ozone-scented air, sharp with a primal dread. "What are you?" The question hung, unanswered, before his final whisper scraped out, "What is this place?" Mr. Peterson sighed with a melancholy weight, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "A refuge," he murmured, the word hanging in the air like a promise gone south. "A bargain. Long ago," he finished, the air grown thick with the scent of damp earth and forgotten things. "This town was dying. A tragedy, steeped in grief. We struck a bargain with the very atmosphere itself, the spirit of this land, a presence we could taste like cold metal in the air. The deal left the scent of ozone and damp earth clinging to our clothes. We traded our peace for whispers on the wind, and now we must listen. It offered eternal preservation, suspending us in our happiest moment forever. All it demanded in return was a single payment, to be collected one day. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and aged paper. A distant scratching sound whispered from the walls as dread settled deep in our bones. Just one single day from every year. Leo's voice was a dry whisper. You get younger? The scent of ozone and old paper grew thick in the still room. Mr. Peterson's reply was a flat, hollow sound, devoid of any warmth. No, we draw nearer to the moment of transaction, to the apex of our contentment. With each step, we relinquish a day of memory. We surrender a day of age, the faint scent of ozone and decay clinging to the air. We forfeit a day of decay, a sticky, cold dread settling deep within. Every Founder's Day, the clock's gears reverse, pulling us toward a blissful, perfect yesterday. The air thickens with the scent of old paper and forgotten promises as we drift backward. But Leo's memories claw forward against the tide, his consciousness a jagged rock in a gentle stream. While the town slips into collective amnesia, he alone feels the sticky dread of moving against time's flow. You're a flaw, a splinter in the system. The memory should have been wiped clean in you, like it was for everyone else. But you held on. The air grows heavy with the metallic scent of ozone, a remnant of the purge that failed to take you. You are the only real thing here, Leo, and real things, in a place of perfection, they must be removed. A primal dread took hold as Leo turned and fled, the air growing heavy with the scent of ozone and rot. He burst through the door of his house, the familiar space now feeling alien and thin. Leo's trembling hands fumbled with the old camcorder he'd discovered in his father's belongings. The device hummed to life, with a low electronic whine that smelled faintly of ozone and decay. He pointed the lens at his own pale, sweat-dampened face, desperation tightening his throat. Into the camera he gasped, voice raw. Dad, Mom, if you're watching this, it means you found it. That familiar, crawling itch returns. The dream you can't shake. Your gaze falls to the photograph hidden in your mother's jewelry box. A metallic tang of old copper and dust hangs in the air. Outside the window, the cars sit motionless under the dim streetlight. Every model on the shelves was outdated, and no fresh stock ever appeared. The newspapers carried impossible dates, their pages smelling faintly of mildew and old ink. The air grew thick with the scent of stale paper and something metallic, like cold iron. Then, a sharp knock shattered the oppressive quiet. The knocks weren't frantic, but steady and patient, a rhythm of awful certainty. Leo could hear the low murmur of the entire town gathered outside, a sound like distant, angry surf. His breath hitched, tears welling in his eyes as he pressed his back against the cold wall. They're coming for me, he whispered, into the damp, still air, the words tasting of iron and dust. Because I remember, don't trust the flowers. They're not real, none of it is. The air carries the faint, sterile scent of plastic and ozone, not earth. And tomorrow, you won't remember telling me that. He concealed the tape in the ventilation shaft, took a shuddering breath, and approached the front door. The door swung open to reveal Mark and Sarah, their expressions placid and unnervingly vacant, fixed with hollow smiles. Behind them, the entire population of Perpetua stood motionless in the eternal amber glow, a silent congregation watching. There you are, sweetie, Sarah cooed, her voice dripping with false warmth that carried the faint scent of ozone and decay. Time for dinner. Mark's voice cut through the heavy quiet, unnaturally cheerful. Come on in, champ. Everything's okay. Leo's gaze slid past him, fixing on the neighbors gathered in their yards. Leo's gaze met the loving, hollow eyes of his parents, and a single tear traced a cold path down his cheek. The air in the room tasted of stale flowers and faint ozone, a scent that clung to the back of his throat. Then, with a slow, deliberate tension, he sculpted a small, flawless smile onto his own lips. It was the same placid, perfect mask they all wore. His voice was a flat, hollow thing when it finally came. Okay, he stepped out, taking his mother's hand as the crowd parted to absorb him. Together, they walked back toward the pristine houses, their footsteps silent on the damp earth. Leo's expression smoothed out, the terror draining from his features like water through sand. Memory bled away, replaced by a serene, unsettling blankness that settled in his gaze. By the time they reached their porch, his eyes held the same glassy, vacant contentment as all the others. The camera pulls back into a high, sweeping aerial shot, revealing the town of Perpetua in its entirety. It is a picture of perfect, unsettling stillness. The sun hangs fixed, a motionless coin in an amber sky. The view zooms in, closing on the Henderson house, a silent monument in this frozen world. Leo's bedroom window reveals his open notebook, DA10, 957, its final page bearing a fresh, tremulous line in a child's hand. The scent of old paper and damp wood lingers as the page's ink glistens wetly under the pale light. A faint scratching whispers from beyond the window, like fingernails tracing the glass in the stillness. Then silence descends, heavy and complete, as the page seems to absorb all sound from the room. Look outside. Do the flowers look just a little too perfect? The screen holds on black for a beat. Silence. Then, a faint, wet rustle whispers from the garden, like petals brushing against skin.